I love when things come together. In One Piece chapter 1096, there's so much to unpack. One of the more condensed chapters we've seen in One Piece in a very long time. We're not gonna waste any time, we're gonna start it off. If you ever wanted to see what Ivankov looked like with Kaido's devil fruit, here you go. You're welcome. This is besides the point, but I don't know how Ivankov saw two fruits. One literally in the shape of a paw and says, I don't know which is which. But here are some beautiful things you missed in this super condensed chapter of One Piece. I know the chapter's called Kumachi, but let's scratch that for now. We're gonna call it Almost God Valley. Let's start from the top. In the very first page, where we see the individuals that seem to be competing with Garling, first we have to clarify those people don't seem to be God Knights. These people are more than likely other families based on them mentioning the Manmeyer family. But the thing here you might have missed is maybe a callback to Mother Carmel and the kids. Now, I do think this may be a slight reach, and these are definitely not the same people, but Oda knows what he's doing. He's introduced people with this mask before for us to draw this connection. And if you look here, you see Mother Carmel, you see someone that has the same mask on, somewhat of a similar hairstyle, and then you see someone else that could be the same character. I do think there are reaches, but I think it's a pretty fun callback and an interesting conspiracy to talk about. The reason why I don't, and I definitely know these aren't the same people, is, well, Big Mom made sure of that. Another small thing is Kong calling Garp. At this point, we know Garp is still a vice admiral, and the only admiral that we know around at this time is probably Sengoku. Well, that's the only one that's confirmed. The three admiral system, we have no idea when it came about. Maybe it didn't exist back then, but due to the rise in pirates, maybe that's the reason why it came about. Until Oda reveals some admirals from back then, that's the most likely conclusion. I did think this would have been a great time to introduce two new admirals, but Oda has a plan and it is what it is. The person that we have to thank for God Valley is none other than Ginny, because she sent out information to pretty much all the powers that be to make it easier for them to escape. So Ginny, imagine her as a revolutionary operative. Maybe she does grow into that. But something we have to point out is everyone getting there. People were saying, how did Garp get there so quickly? Roger, how did this happen? Well, guys, it is stated that Ginny leaked all the info 2 weeks back. And even though in the chapter it seems like everything is happening rapidly in succession, I think it's pretty clear they got the information 2 weeks back and they all prepared to make land on the same day. That's why everyone seemingly showed up at the same time, because it was leaked info. This is happening on this day. It couldn't have been the same day or even close to it, because Garp said that's all the way in the boonies. So they needed to make preparations, and therefore, guys, don't trip. It is not all happening on the same day. She leaked the info, people got wind of it, and then they showed up on the same day. That's all. I think when Big Mom or Rox, whomever, went to Kaido saying that there's trouble, that was when the info leaked. But I think even before that is when the crown jewel got stolen. So all these happened in succession over a span of weeks, not over a span of days. Unless you're Shanks, because Shanks can time travel. Now here's some interesting speculation. The characters that are the Rocks pirates. First off, Stussy. The relationship between Stussy and Gloriosa is really interesting, considering the history of Gloriosa. If you do not remember, Gloriosa is a former empress of the Kuja tribe, and she's from one generation before Shaki, but 2 generations before someone that we don't even know who it is yet, and 3 generations before Boa Hancock. Now here's the thing, all of the empresses, they always seem to be stricken by a love sickness, and they have an insane affinity for a certain man. For Boa Hancock, it's obviously Luffy. We have no idea about the unknown Kuja. For Shaki was Rayleigh, and for Gloriosa, it could be Whitebeard, because their relationship seems to be contentious. We know for Stussy, she's only after the money. For Gloriosa, she may be smitten by Whitebeard, or it might just be Rocks. I don't want to downplay this, because the love sickness disease, it's a pretty big deal. It killed many of her predecessors. And so for her, she survived by fleeing the country. So Boa Hancock, by her constantly interacting with Luffy and saving Luffy, pretty much saving her life. The disease is an affliction that kills people. Shaki obviously left open a bar with Rayleigh. Gloriosa's reputation was obviously tainted by leaving the country, but who would have thought? We all thought Shaki was the one who was on the Rocks pirates, because the hints were there. Come to find out, it's Gloriosa, which was an amazing twist, by the way. However, she did save Boa Hancock and her sisters and adopted them, brought them back to Amazon Lily, so I think all is forgiven there. The long history of the Kuja matters here, because Gloriosa was more than likely smitten with Whitebeard or Rocks. I'm guessing Rocks. In this affliction, I wonder what happens if someone dies. At that point, the person isn't alive anymore. Either you die as well, or I guess you're cured if the requirements are satisfied. But that relationship dynamic between Gloriosa and Stussy, very interesting. And her holding on to Whitebeard, that What is that? Another thing, if you look closely behind Whitebeard, you see a guy who has similar weapons to what Blackbeard had in the past. Now, we're not sure if this is where Blackbeard got them from, because Blackbeard has a saber of his back, so maybe he inherited some of the things from the Rocks Pirates. Something to keep in mind. Also in the corner, beneath that fishman thing next to Whitebeard, you see our boy Struzan, Big Mom's first crewmate, or the man that, I don't want to use the word, but somewhat raised Big Mom. Let's say that, because there's some speculation that he is Pero's dad, and that just gets weird. But Struzan is actually there. Something to keep in mind as well, someone that might be here that we really don't know yet, Higurashi. Remember, back then in Wano, she turned into Shiki and also Stussy. So it would not be surprising at all if Higurashi was lurking around, touching people's faces and transforming, causing trouble, because that's what she does. Remember Kaido. Something very intriguing is that he disappeared and Big Mom was wondering where he went. And we also know Big Mom saved Kaido's life at God Valley. Maybe it's time for a Kaido retrospective. We're not done with the Rocks Pirates though, because we got to talk about Moria. So we know about Gecko Moria's history. He was at Roger's execution. He wanted a One Piece, wanted to become Pirate King, and then he ran into a Kaido. Kaido defeated him, destroyed all his crewmates. Moria retreated, trying to gain power again to defeat Kaido. Goes back to his home sea of where? West Blue. Interestingly enough, the same blue where God Valley is located, and he constructed Thriller Bark. More reports are showing that Thriller Bark could be remnants of God Valley if you look at some of the pictures here. Shout out to my guy at 2Hunter on Twitter. Shout out to my guy Theory 2 as well, where what it's looking like, Moria going to the West Blue and looking for an undead army came across the remnants of God Valley, and there he found a lot of corpses. There are a lot of similar people that we see here with the Rocks Pirates that Moria had as a corpse. One confirmed is absolutely Captain John, and we see another person here with the same weapons that Blackbeard had back then. So I'm not sure if it was vindictive that Moria, Kaido destroyed most of his crews, and then Moria goes and uses Kaido's old crew and creates a new undead crew comprised of Kaido's old guys. It's twisted, could be coincidence, but it's all coming together. Moving right along, this is not explicitly stated, but Oda does this thing at times where he puts characters in certain alignments, which pretty much gives away their strength. I think in this case, with the Rocks Pirates and their alignment, you have Whitebeard, then Shiki, then Big Mom, then Kaido, Stussy, Captain John, Gloriosa, looks like Wang Ji, and I don't know, Silver Axe, we don't know. Either way, some are speculating that this is the order of strength at the time of God Valley. Now, I have some qualms because I think Big Mom could have been stronger than Shiki, but it would not be surprising when Shiki was the third at that point. Now, it's interesting that Oda is trying to conflate things by having these crews somewhat mimic the Straw Hat crew and also Blackbeard's crew. For one, they're coming together for a goal. It's not because they all love their captain and they're all friends. No, they each have side quests, and they came together because I guess they have the same goal, but they're so much like the Straw Hat crew because Rock seems to be similar to Luffy. He went on ahead and Whitebeard gave the prototypical Zoro thing if Zoro wasn't actually a Straw Hat. Like, who said I'd let an idiot like you give me orders? Like, that's something Zoro would say if he wasn't actually a Straw Hat, but he was working with Luffy. And also, Whitebeard, he was working with the Rocks Pirates, but look at him. He has his own Jolly Roger. Is that a subordinate to you guys? And then also Shiki. He said, who died and put you in charge? That sounds exactly like what Sanji would say to Zoro. So the obvious implications are there. Also, this is pretty obvious. Bogard is now here in God Valley confirmed. There's another character that people are speculating this person could be. I'm not sure. Also, shout out to It's David B on Twitter. He pointed this out. This guy right behind Garp with this hat. People are speculating it could be Tokikake, or better known by his alias Chaton. You know, Momosagi and Chaton, the two vice admirals who were in the running for admiral when they recruited Fujitora and Green Bull. Now, this being Chaton would be amazing considering the people that we know that were at God Valley. The only person we knew of was Garp, but obviously now seeing Bogard here and this Shiki looking character next to him. That would add a lot to the lore, and Oda incorporating a fan-made character, because that's what Chaton and Momosagi are. Fan-made characters that Oda pigeonholed into the canon story. It would be beautiful. The next thing we want to talk about, and this is absolutely spot on confirmed, is the two kids that Kuma removed their pain. Those are actually now members of Bonnie's crew. If I had to guess, they became really good friends with Kuma and Ginny. Ginny passed away, and now they swore to look over Bonnie no matter what. Now, what Bonnie is up for question, and I think that's the next thing we got to talk about, because we've seen Queen Dowager, we have Ginny, and we have Bonnie at the beginning of Egghead. What is Bonnie?